Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Madam Sonia Janahi and our Middle East IOC in charge, Mr. Mansoor Pelor. We are thankful to our president who actually conceived this idea and then coordinated with our speaker, which resulted our presence today. In view of the current scenario, today's topic is the best COVID-19 impact on economy, as just Shamli Madam has mentioned, its challenges, opportunities, and where we are heading. We are very concerned about the current situation to gain in-depth updates and knowledge from our expert speaker, and it will surely help us to understand and find the ways to overcome from the alarming situations. So not taking your more time, I would like to invite our President, Mr. Mansoor, to say a few words and introduce the speaker in details. Over to you, Mr. Mansoor. Thank you all for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Khurshid Bhai. And first of all, I welcome all and already welcomed our Sonia ji and Manoj Shinde ji and all our committee members and all the participants. Today, first of all, I wish a very happy birthday to our beloved leader Rahul Gandhi ji. Even though he asked everybody not to celebrate today his birthday because of COVID and or a lot of soldiers, I mean, around 20 soldiers died in the border. So that's why he specially instructed everybody not to participate his birthday. Okay, in the outbreak of COVID-19 has created a global health crisis that has deep impact on the way we perceive our world and our everyday lives. This pandemic has not only affected health, but has pushed the global economy into recession, which means the economy starts shrinking and growth stop. Indian Overseas Congress Bahrain have taken initiatives to provide, along with the KHK Heroes Foundation, to support those affected due to this pandemic by helping them, offering our support and guidance over this pandemic crisis. Every crisis brings challenges and threats to entrepreneurs and their organizations. The COVID-19 crisis has affected societies and economy around the globe, will permanently reshape our world as it continues to unfold. While fallout from the crisis amplify familiar risk and create new ones, change at the scale also creates inception for managing systematic challenges and ways to build back. To discuss and learn more on this topic, it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our dear friend, my brother and guest speaker, Mr. S.M. Bashir. So let me introduce a little bit about Bashir. Mr. Bashir is an MBA Sales and Management, also studied in entrepreneurship in emerging market from Harvard University. For the past 27 years involved in finance, regional operation, marketing, sales and business development, role in telecom industry, managing across Gulf, Middle East, Europe and USA and Asia. Advisor to various Gulf-based NGO also, strategic advisor and trustee for Shepherd International Academy also, and currently president of Bari Chamber of Commerce and Industry, UAE, which I am also member. Welcome, Mr. Bashir.
Thank you, Mr. Mansoor. If I may start, before I could say anything, it's an absolutely pleasure connecting with all the esteemed delegates out here. This is quite a different experience to connect, all our prominent personalities connected through virtual network. I will be talking today the COVID-19 impact on the economy, challenges, and of course, most importantly, the opportunity which we all are looking for. I will try to highlight the challenges on the global economy. That's to begin with. It's very, very important that to focus on a little bit on the global economy. And then I want to briefly compare 2008 recession versus 2020, what to expect and where we are heading. And of course, challenges Indian economy, and I will be covering the Gulf economy challenges, and of course, what kind of a recovery one can expect. That's everybody's in mind. And also, I will be highlighting the industries got affected and what are the industries gaining. And most importantly, last piece of my subject will be, I'll be covering the opportunity for the professionals as well as the entrepreneurs, where to focus on that. So let me just start, begin my subject. Ever since the Corona outbreak, beginning of February, the entire world has changed dramatically with a short frame of time. No one is expected, neither me or no anyone is expected. And never in the past, this government has imposed a lockdown, on economies. Business were forced to shut down. People were isolated for a reason. But this has created a huge impact on a global economy. Before I could start my subject on a global economy, I would like to highlight the type of crisis so that it will help you to understand that 2020, what kind of a crisis. There are different kind of a crisis. So let me begin my topic with starting with the three type of crisis in the economies. That's one is the economy slowdown, which you all hear. Another one is the recession, and third one is the depression. So let me explain you a little bit on what does it mean for a global economy slowdown. Economy slowdown means if country's GDP is declining compared to the previous fiscal year or quarter after quarter, if the GDP is slowing down, that means it's economy slowdown. That doesn't mean the recession. For example, what happening for the last couple of years, India is a classic example of economy slowdown for the last couple of years. If you notice, every quarter after quarter, the economy is slowing down. But what does it mean, the recession? The second, the recession. The recession means if country's GDP is declined to the negative figure for a consecutive 2 quarters or more, that means it's a recession. What was happening in 2008 when the global GDP has triggered the negative figure, that was the recession. And what does mean the third type of crisis is the depression. The depression means the country's GDP declines a negative growth of 10 and above, and for a prolonged period of time, 3 years or more, that means it's a depression. What was happening in 1930 was the Great Depression. It has lasted for a nearly decade. So you understand the type of crisis. So when I come to 2020, you don't need to even look at the economists to tell you where we are. But let me start with my topic on the global economies. According to the Indian International Monetary Fund, IMF, according to them, that the 2020 crisis is far severe than 2008 recession, perhaps worse since 1930s depression. There is a reason behind for IMF to suggest these things. Ever since the outbreak, global stock market hardly hit in USA, and USA has to pledge $2 trillion to support the economies. And you all know that anything impacts on the US economy will have an implication impact on the rest of the world. And not only that, what also France economy suggests, the first 3 months, ever since the outbreak, the first 3 months, France experienced the worst GDP performance since a Second World War. They're not even comparing 2008 recession. What they're trying to tell is that the performance for the first 3 months is the worst since the Second World War. That gives you an idea what kind of challenges that we are going to face in 2020. As I mentioned, that USA stock market has witnessed a historical crash. Perhaps that's also one of the reasons the economy is struggling, and then US has to pump $2 trillion to support the economy. European Union GDP has plunged. Germany economy is about to shrink more than 6%. And China economy has declined record 6%. Japan economy has plunged. I'm only referring to all these heavyweight economy powerhouse. The reason why they are the one who's controlling the global economy, they are the one having the largest stake in the global GDPs. So these are in a nutshell to tell you about the impact on the global side. Now, let me just give you a brief comparison on 2008 recession versus 2020. I don't want to compare 2020 to 1930s depression. It doesn't make sense because we are not part of 1930. But of course, we were a part of 2008 crisis. We faced those challenges. We had those hardships, and we came out from 2008 recession. So let me just give you a brief comparison of 2008 versus 2020. That gives you an idea where we are heading, what type of crisis that we're going to face. Now, 2008, unlike 2020, economy, was not under lockdown. People were moving, people were working, economy were moving in 2008. And there was a problem in 2008. If you all know that the global banking suffered a collapse, and also global stock market collapse triggered the worldwide recession. Even the Middle East got the biggest hit in 2008. But we were working that time, 2008, and many people, I mean, thousand people have lost a job. They have lost the saving, and everything was there. I mean, hardship was there. But in 2020 is entirely different. In 2008, that was a structural problem that triggered the crisis in 2008. 2020 is not a structural problem. It's not the structural problem as far as the economy is concerned. It is a volunteer choice by the government to lock down the economies. And we are not able to go, the entire economies are put on hold, factories are shut down, plants are shut down, airline is grounded, and that triggered the massive impact in 2020. Let me give you a quick brief on the comparison of a 2020 versus 2008. 2008 took nearly 517 days, I think more or less more than 1.5 years it took to hit the global stock market to reach as low as 56% in 2008, but it took nearly 520 days. But whereas in 2020, the global market has took only 17 days to hit as low as 30%, and that shows the impact of 2020. So this is in a nutshell to let you know the impact and the comparison of 2008 and 2020. Now let me touch base. The impact in Indian economy is very important. We are part of the Indian economy also. So exactly the way I compare 2008 and 2020, I would like to just compare the 2008 recession to India. When we had a recession in 2008, the 2008 recession hit just after when we were doing extremely well. The global economy booming in 2008. India was a forefront as far as the most emerging market concerned. The GDP was doing extremely well. Quarter after quarter, GDP was doing well in 2008. Stock market was at peak in 2008, and without being biased to any government, without being biased to any political party. Even 2008, then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh happens to be the economist, and of course he was also known as the father of a reformer. He had those expertise, he has those abilities, but of course a lot of things was favoring in anyway because of his leadership. But he had those expertise, fiscal when it comes to fiscal deficit, enough liquidity to support the banking sectors, and India, one of the only few countries who has those resilience during 2008 crisis, and India has a lot to contribute even then. But 2020 is quite different compared to 2008 recession. 2020 is a global pandemic is hitting not just after we were doing extremely well or not in the middle of economic booming as far as Indian economy concerned. We were struggling for the last couple of years. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why I started my topic by explaining the type of crisis, economic slowdown, recession, or the depression. 2020, for the last couple of years, India is struggling. We are in the middle of a deep economic slowdown. And year after year, the GDP is declining. Quarter after quarter, the GDP is declining. And even a couple of weeks back, India has released the fourth quarter of the 2019-2020's GDP. What was expected to hit 4.6, but unfortunately, the GDP for the fourth quarter is hit as bad as 3.1 percentage of growth. But this has nothing to do with the COVID impact, because India has put the lockdown, I think, on 25th of March. This is I'm talking about the GDP is much before the lockdown. So these are the situation that India, but COVID is going to worsen in the existing situation. But also there are some other sequences I would like to highlight as far as Indian economy is concerned, and the challenges like the rupee is at all-time high. It's going to even worsen. You all know that the rupee is at all-time high, and unemployment rate is a 45 years high. The COVID impact will even worsen the unemployment situation back in India, and food inflation is at all-time high. Petrol prices at all-time high, in spite of having a oil price, a crude oil price to decline in the worldwide, and interest on deposit at 17 years low. That has a huge pressure on the banking sector. Bank credit growth at 50 years low. For a couple of years, you see that banks are merging. There are so many reasons. Perhaps these are the couple of reasons also. And recently, if you all know that, I don't know how many you are aware of it, recently Moody has released the report. And this is they have downgraded the Indian economy status first time since 22 years. That means since two decades. What does it mean? I mean, it's just not just a report. It is talking about Indian economy status. I think this will create a lot of concern over the foreign companies, with the investors look twice before putting money into the economy where the country's status is downgraded. But not only this, the COVID is going to worsen the situations. And then recently there is a All India Manufacturing Association done a survey, and according to their survey, 1 out of 3 business are close to wind up. What does it mean? 1 out of 3 business is going to wind up. Manufacturing companies, only referring to the SME segment, small, medium enterprises. That means going to hit 10 to 11 crore families, people directly or indirectly. This is in general of India's situation. Of course, the Indian agriculture is going to hit so badly because many knows 50 to 60% of the Indian workforce are involved directly or indirectly to in agriculture. There are so many other sectors I will I will highlight a bit later on. But this is in a nutshell about the challenges that India is facing as far as the global pandemic concern and the current situations. Now, it's very important to highlight about the Gulf, and I have briefly highlighted about the global economy, India. Now, let me touch base the challenges in India. Like many other countries, the Gulf also facing challenges. But unlike other countries, Gulf is facing a twin negative shock. The one is, of course, Gulf is facing because of the global pandemic shock, and second one is the decline in the oil price. Majority of the Gulf countries are, the GDP is driven by the oil. Recently, there was a major crash in the oil price, not just only because of the problem with the supply-demand, disruption in global supply-demand. Manufacturers are shut down, plants are shut down, the entire airline industry has grounded. Not only these are the reasons, but also there is another reason. There are 2 major oil-producing countries in the world, Saudi Arabia and Russia, where didn't agree on an agreement. They were supposed to agree on an agreement to limit the production so that they can maintain the oil price. So that they couldn't agree on that. That triggered also the decline in the oil price. I think 1.5 months back, you may witness the historical crash in the oil price in the global stock market. And what the economists predict, if the oil price remain 20 barrel for the remaining years, the Gulf Council countries put together are going to lose $550 million per day, not per month, $550 million per day, and that is significant. And this is in general of the Gulf is facing, as I said, Gulf is facing a twin negative shock. But also, this is other aspect, Gulf is struggling because of the airline industry is grounded. Gulf produce some of the biggest airline in the world. You can start with the Etihad Airways, Emirates Airlines, Saudi Airlines, Qatar Airways, and the Gulf Airs. They are the biggest one. Ever since the COVID outbreak, it has grounded. Of course, it has resumed, but with a limited scope. This has a huge impact on the economy as well. And then other hospitalities and tourism, especially Dubai, will face a tough challenge because Dubai is known as a global destination. And as far as the hospitality is concerned, the two GCC country will face the toughest time is Dubai as well as Saudi. Saudi attracts millions of people every year for a Umrah and Hajj. And not many GCC countries has a diversified economy, exception to Bahrain and Dubai got those the diversified economy, but majority of GCC countries GDP is driven by the oil. And Saudi got the Vision 2030s. Bahrain has a Vision 2030. UAE has a 2030 vision. 2030's vision is all about creating a sustainable economy development, and also making sure that the country has a diversified economy, and also to convert the country into most vibrant mode. But this will also need to be relooked at because COVID has brought entirely different dynamics to the industry, whether it's industries, whether it's the policymaker has to relook at the vision 2030s. And as you know, that Expo 2020 is supposed to take place in October in Dubai. It has to move to the next year. Expo was expected to attract 20 to 25 million people. This has another huge challenge. And there's some of the surveys done by Chamber of Commerce as well as Bahrain Chamber of Commerce, and I had an opportunity to run through the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce statistic report, and the fabulous report. But what it says that 70% people, business owners, are expected that the business will recover for 1 year time, and some of the like 40 again another 70% think that they need 2 to 3 years to recover. These are the challenges as Gulf is facing it, and of course on a very optimistic side compared to India or compared to other countries as far as Gulf concerned, Gulf has the most advanced infrastructure in place. They have a well-equipped resources in place, highly skilled resources in place, and also known for their visionary leadership. Gulf was the one of the few countries as came back in 2008 recession like never before. And being here for 27 years, and I'm very optimistic that Gulf will bounce back because of the leadership, because of the visionary. Just to give an example, World Health Organization is the first to applaud the Gulf leadership for the measure they have taken to address the COVID. And Kuwait was the first to put the lockdown in the regions, and followed by many other countries. And UAE is known as #1 in the world doing for a testing per millions. So, and also Gulf Council has pledged $120 billion put together. Just to give a little breakup on that, Saudi has pledged $32 billion, UAE has pledged $34 billion, Oman has pledged $20 billion, Bahrain $11 billion, Kuwait $1.5 billion, Qatar is $20 billion to support the economy. And when I just went through the Bahrain Chamber of Commerce industries report, and it shows that 70% of people have benefited, business owners have benefited from the support from the government. That is a remarkable. That's why I say that being very optimistic that Gulf will bounce back because of the way the government is supporting it, and many other government entities also supporting the government the initiative to the business owners. This is in a nutshell about the impact on Gulf. Now, let me just give you a brief about the industries affected because of the COVID impact, and also what are the industries that's gained, because in every time crisis do bring opportunities. And airline industries, as rightly mentioned, that the United States industry globally is expected $120 billion loss as far as the airline industry is concerned. And hospitality industries has hardly hit because of the COVID-19 impact. In GCC particularly, as you know, as I mentioned, that Dubai and Saudi will face a lot of challenges because these are the two countries that attracts millions of people for a different reason. And banking sector has struggled because of the COVID impact in GCC as well as in India. And logistic areas that has impacted because of the disruption in the global supply chain. And oil industries, of course, as I mentioned, Gulf GDP is driven by the oil, and because of decline and the lack of demand for oil, the oil industry is struggling because of COVID impact. And retail industries is something that's really going to struggle, and retail industry, the industry is going to take some more time to recover. The reason why, because the problem is on the health side. It's a health emergency. People will think twice before going out or buying anything or purchasing anything, and this challenge is always be there. And many outlets have shut down. Restaurants are struggling big time in GCC particularly, and real estate will continue to struggle for the reason why, because global pandemic has brought one new thing, is working from home. When it comes to working from home, what happens is that the commercial real estate will have a pressure post-COVID. I'm not saying that the working from home will be fully fledged in the operation, but for some extent, working from home will be a new normal. and government sector has worked very effectively working from home. I can give you a small example. ADNOC, Abu Dhabi National Oil Companies, has created some kind of a record for having a 30 million calls done, having a meetings. Never happened in the histories. And then one of the corporate companies also sharing that they've seen the productivity and efficiency because of working home. Working home has its one advantage, and of course, it has own disadvantage as well. So if any corporate company is occupying 10th floor, do you think that they will continue occupying the 10th floor? I doubt, because they will manage their workforce in such a way they can just keep 3 floors and save a lot of OPEX, whether it is the rent, electricity, waters, parking charges, petrol, you name it. So they can look into all these things. And then global tourism has got really that's really impacted because of the COVID impact. The countries like Greece will struggle. 2008, Greece took nearly 1 decade to recover. But imagine this has completely shattered the global tourism, and manufacturing companies, fisheries industries, and hotels and restaurants are got impacted. But now let me tell you also the industries gain. We know a crisis do bring opportunities. One of the main area that gain big time is the health sector. Of course, the problem is on the health side, on the health emergencies. So everybody's rushing towards the health and the hospitals. Anything related to the health sector is gaining, whether it is the hospitals, healthcare, pharmaceutical company, medical tools, equipments. These are all gaining it because of the COVID-19. And then video conference technology, is some extent, is having an upper hand, and some specifically on the broadband providers, and Zoom, likes of Microsoft, Teams, Zoom, and WebEx. Zoom had hardly had 10 millions just before the COVID, and today the statistics suggest that they have 300 million users on a daily basis. That amazing and unbelievable growth that Zoom has experienced. And as another sector is gaining because of COVID is Netflix and Amazon. Of course, when you put the billions of people under lockdown, and this is the area that people all want to spend more time. Netflix and Amazon and telecommunication industries, as I mentioned, I come from the telecom background. I know which are the areas that, of course, telecommunication or telecom sector played an instrumental role during this COVID time. E-learning has taken an upper hand, and they have booming e-learning or anything. You get to see, never seen some of the very prestigious institution like an Oxford, Harvard University pushing a lot of online courses these days because of the demand and hygienic products. Of course, it goes without saying, gaining it. Delivery services, delivery mechanism is gaining it. During Wuhan the outbreak time, Alibaba's delivery mechanism has played an instrumental role in supporting there. And home entertainment, of course, has gaining it. Online gaming has never seen such a growth in the histories. Online gaming is gaining it, and of course, software industry is gaining it. These are the industries. If a profession is looking for focus on these sectors for an opportunities. Now, I just wanted to highlight about the next part year's challenges a little bit on the salaries. When you have the challenges, companies do downsize, because corporate sectors will try to save the companies. It's all about survival. And then the first and foremost, they will look at it, how we can minimize the OPEX on operating costs. And of course, the first thing is they look at it, downsize the staff. And this is happening without naming any organization or companies. You're all well aware of it. This is happening, is that either salary cut or layoff is taking place, and it will continue to take place till we find the stability on the economies. And I never seen, being 27 years in the club, I never seen somebody is coming in online and announcing that we're going to lay down 3,000 people. It was very shocking to hear Uber's head of the human resources coming on Zoom and announcing saying that for tomorrow it will be your last working day for 3,000 employees. I mean, it's so painful to see all these situations. Many organizations will be impacted, expatriates, especially in the expatriates who's working on the SME sectors and the retail sector. I just want to give you last comments on the on the jobs, quoting International Labour Organizations has predicted 38% all employees in the world is at risk, either salary cut or losing job. That means the 1 billion workers in the world either salary cut or may lose job. 2.7 billion works may impacted directly or indirectly due to coronavirus, and that's something is impact. The objective of today's the discussion is all about connecting to the realities and make sure that how we can prepare ourselves to face these challenges, where to focus. And I'm sure end of my topic I will be highlighting the area which someone can focus on, keeping only COVID challenge in mind. And unfortunately, as far as the expatriates or employees concerned in Gulf, we don't have a payroll protection law. Neither we have it in India. We cannot expect, because we are not a citizen. We're grateful to the Gulf countries because Gulf countries has provided for us an opportunity to earn our bread and butter. That's always been very grateful to this country. But in European countries, there are payroll protections. They do protect their citizens when such situation, if the company is even also locked down, their employees will be remain formally kept as an employee, and they pay the normal wages. That normal wages are reimbursed by the government. And if you know that in USA, unemployment can file for a benefit, but we can't do that in India, neither here. So that's challenges will always be there. And this is in a nutshell about the expatriates and employees challenges. Now, one question will always in our mind, what kind of a recovery we expect and when to expect the recoveries. I try to highlight briefly, each subject that it requires its own time frame, it requires an hours to explain, but I got my time limitation. I have to cover as much as possible. So that's the reason I covered global economy, India, industries, and Gulf as well. Now, one will always think and expect, and when we will have, what kind of expectation we have as far as the recovery concerned. Similarly, the way I mentioned about the type of crisis, there are also type of recovery. And economists, always say there are three type of recoveries. The one, V shape of recovery, U shape of recovery, and the L shape of recovery. These are the curve-based recovery. The V shape recovery, if you have a sudden crash and then immediate recovery, that's the V shape recovery. Sudden crash on the global economy, and then you've got the immediate recovery mode. And then another one is a U-shape recovery, which is you got the economy crash, and then it's going to stay some more time, and then recovery back. That's in the U-shape recovery. And then the L-shape recovery, which is you have the economy crashes, but it's going to stay for the longest time, 3-4 years, or then recovering. What happened in 1930 Great Depression, that was the L-shaped recovery. But in 2008, it was more or less in between V and U-shaped recovery. Now, if you ask me what you expect, what I expect, or anybody expect, forget about me or anybody else. Some of the biggest economists in the world are not certain about what kind of a recovery we need to expect. And I want to quote someone I admire personally, internationally renowned economist, the former RBI governor, which we all admire, Professor Raghuram Rajan, when he was asked what kind of a recovery he expect. Even Professor Rajan is not in a position to confirm what we expect and what kind of a recovery one can expect, because there's a reason behind. As I said, that the problem in 2020 is not the economical structural problem. The collapse is not because of the structural problem, because of the volunteer choice locking down the economies. And until unless you don't find the vaccine, until unless you don't find the medicine to save the lives, one cannot predict to become a normal business. So it's going to take time. And that's exactly what Professor Raghuram mentioned, that until unless you don't find the vaccine, you cannot really certain to what kind of the recovery you can expect. Now, what happened in China, we thought that China is completely in control of the virus. And a couple of weeks back, you get to hear that the Beijing has an outbreak of 150 virus. And then when New Zealand has announced that the New Zealand is the first country having a zero virus, about a week back, they found 2 more virus. The problem here when it comes to, we live in a globalization world. The problem here, anywhere virus means everywhere is virus. So anywhere virus means everywhere virus. So this is a challenge we all face. So therefore, one cannot really assess what kind of recovery went to recovery. But again, one expect that by October, November, we'll have a vaccine. A lot to depend on the vaccine, and also the country is going to take kind of a measures. I will talk about a little later on as far as the economy and the support concern. And let me just conclude the growth and the challenges concerned is what the IMF, International Monetary Fund, projects of growth for 2020, as the global economy is going to hit a -3 growth as far as the 2020 concerns, the entire global economy. That is one little worse than 2008 recession. And advanced economy, what they're projecting, the IMF, is going to have a -6.1 growth as far as the advanced economy concerned. The likes of Japan, Germany, and European countries falls under advanced economy. An emerging market, what IMF is projecting is a 2020 is -1, talking about Middle East and India as part of the emerging market. But let me be on the optimistic side as far as the growth projection concerned. In 2021, global economy is forecasted at 5.8 growth, from a negative to a positive growth 5.8, and the advanced economy from a -6.1, a positive 2021, and a 4.5 growth. And the emerging market is going to grow 2021 6.6, and these are on the optimistic side. So this is in general. We're expecting that 2020 will allow growth, but 2020 is still far. Our focus has to be on 2020, what we need to do, how we can prepare ourselves. The deglobalizations will accelerate. Before pre-COVID, there was a pressure on the deglobalizations. You all are aware of it. U.S. President was putting a lot of pressure on a global side to deglobalization, but somehow, some extent, I believe the COVID will accelerate the deglobalization. If it is not fully fledged, but of course partially. The other countries going to take an advantage because of the deglobalizations, or also because of the COVID, is the countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia, because China is a world factory as far as the supply concerns. But COVID has made the policymaker, the government, the industrials to learn a lesson. You can't just depending on the world factories. Now the multinational companies are relocating their factories to Vietnam. All the electronics are moving to Vietnam. Government sectors are moving to Bangladesh. The manufacturing company are moving to Malaysia and Indonesia. India is supposed to grab an opportunity to have India pose as one of the great opportunity, great hub for a foreign companies to put. But unfortunately, the border conflict will put a pressure on a multinational company. It's going to take more time, but the other countries going to take an advantage as far as the relocations concerned, the factories concerned. So this is in a nutshell about all those challenges, difficulties. Now, I wanted to start with an important session of my topic is an opportunities that where we can focus. And my opportunity will be very specific, keeping COVID in mind, keeping the industry that one can focus. And I'm trying to highlight on both the professionals as well as the business people. Now, post-COVID, the industry is going to look entirely, or I can say, a different skill. Post the COVID impact has put a lot of pressure on the workforce. The industry's approach will be quite different post-COVID, and the organization, the company will look for a high-skilled workforce. Therefore, it's very, very important for a professional to upgrade their skills and reskill if necessary. I tell you, the problem with all of us, when I say an Indian expert, is the problem when it comes to reskilling it, because we are very comfortable working with one skill for many years. We are very loyal to the company. We have to be loyal to the company, but also we are very loyal to our professions. But sometimes you will realize that the problem you are facing because of depending on one particular skill, an accountant is going to remain as an accountant. Why you can't look an alternative professions? Why can't you look for being in a sales areas? So that's the reason you need to reskill, and this is a great opportunity. 5 years back, when you really wanted to upgrade your skill, you want to have for a reskill, you need to go for an institute, you need to go for a training center. But digital era, we live in a digital age. It has changed. You don't need to walk out. You got the face, you got the flexibilities, you have all those flexibility you can learn. So what I want to suggest and what I advise that try to focus on upgrading your skill and having a new skill. This is a very, very, very important. You need to have an entirely different resume. Just having experience in one particular industry or one particular profession will not be enough. You need to make sure that you have an amazing skill, CV with the multiple skills, but it's very easy to achieve that. I can support you, post this session whenever you want it. You can reach me through Mr. Mohammed Mansoor. If there's anything that you want to learn, which area you need to focus. And there are so many institutions are offering, an organization offering a free training. So this, you need to focus on that. And there is another area professionally to focus on the cloud areas. Learn something on the cloud area. It's very, very important that you focus on the cloud area. Post-COVID, every organization has to transform the company into a digital mode, and the cloud will play a major role. And AWS is the first to come in the region. They have set up their compute node in Bahrain. They have their edge node in Dubai. Microsoft got 2 major data centers in the region. So there will be huge drive for the cloud. But therefore, the professional can get an opportunity to work in the cloud areas and the cloud company. You don't need to just look for a back office staff or a specialist. You can enable working in a different profession, but you need to focus. And I can help you and guide you which area you need to focus on as far as the cloud player concerned. Especially, I'm focusing on AWS and Microsoft. Online education institution is providing a lot of learning, and you need to learn on coding, animation, selling skills. Selling skill will change. It's not going to be the exact selling skill, the pre-COVID. And animation will play a key role. And then digital marketing. Please do focus on digital marketing. Digital marketing will have a great opportunity for a profession to look at it. And there are so many. The Google is offering a digital marketing expert for a free of charge. So many other institutions are offering it. And if you wanted to get some more details, I'm more than happy to support you and guide you. And also I can put somebody to give you an assessment. This is only, I'm doing it because this is the time we all need to support one another. That's exactly what Mr. Mansoor's objective also to create this platform so that can be beneficial for everybody's. And then virtual project management. Try to learn something on the virtual project management. It's like a part of the gig economies. A lot of organizations will look for a professional who has the ability to work as a freelancer man instead of hiring for a contractual basis. Organizations are going to look for a project managers based on the specific project. So learn about being a project management, and of course, social media management is another area one need to focus. And content creation will have a huge demand post-COVID, because as part of the digitalization, as part of a lot of e-commerce, the digital creation, content creation will play a major role. A lot of training skills available if you want it. Outbound sales skill is another area one can focus. And copywriting, not many knows copywriting is a multi-billion company. Learn something on the copywriting. I can explain you later on what copywriting is all about. And then, team management. And I wanted to really advise parents, the professionals, if your children are studying, if your brother and sisters are currently studying, ask them to focus on an entirely different sector going forward, like machine learning, intelligent, big data, data scientists, robotics, and these are the areas one need to focus on. And going forward, 2030 onwards, there is no much demand for the existing traditional workforce. The automation is going to replace millions of jobs. Therefore, and at the same time, there is a million job opportunity will be created in this area. So, and even the doctors, everyone wants to be a doctor. Believe me, most of the doctors' job going forward will be replaced by the robotic and automation. Therefore, focus and guide and encourage people to focus on that area. This is in general, you wanted to focus on professionals. Now, let me highlight on the business side, and this will be my last phase of the opportunity as business ideas. And this is applied for both professional as well as the business people. Now, when I'm talking about the business ideas, I want to be very specific to COVID and very specific what is achievable. I don't want to talk about your setting up a multi-million-dollar company. I don't want to talk about your setting up an industries. I wanted to talk about and share an idea is very feasible. A professional can and look to explore it. And I want to start with a startup. And I want to explain you the concept of startup. And if you understand the concept of startup, believe me, you will, without anybody's help, you will come up with great ideas. The startup, many people think that startup, somebody is starting a new job, starting a new company. No, startup does not mean starting up a new company. Startup means a group of people getting together, initiating a product which can be a solution for a problem. A group of people. Startup is not done by an individual. Startup means a group of people getting together, taking an initiative to solve the problem, creating a product. Now, if you look at every startup companies, from the Amazons to Flipkart to Careem to Uber, Booking.com or Talabat, you name it. Every startup company has a reason behind its establishment. They created this startup company as a solution to solve the problem. Now, you know that the crisis do bring an opportunities, and you need to identify what are the problem exist, what are the problems surrounding me, what are the problem I'm facing it. So if I'm facing this problem, how can I solve it? You don't need to be a product specialist. You need to have a concept. If you know the concept, for example, let me tell you, give you a few ideas where you can focus on a startup. Startup is also very important it's a part of the collective business support approach. You need to find a like-minded people so that all you can get together, start thinking about a concept. Now, if you can build a startup based on the 4 values: honesty, sincerity, transparency, and respect. If you build the startup concept based on these platforms, nothing can go wrong. Now, let me give you a few ideas where you can focus on a startup company. You don't need to be a specialist in product, but as long as you can visualize the concept, then you can certainly look into it. Like creating an e-store as part of the e-commerce. Now, I don't want to give you the same suggestion at Amazon or Flipkart. No, create an e-store. In your countries, in your place where you have a 5 to 10 stores, replicate those stores in your e-commerce portal. Of course, you will be having some kind of an agreement with the e-store, but it's a win-win situation for both, for you as well as the store owners, because you're creating increasing in market share. You're not investing anything. You're just being a facilitator, an aggregator, connecting their stores to a buyer, and you're creating a convenience for the buyers, because going forward, e-commerce is going to take an upper hand, and the COVID will only accelerate. Post-COVID only accelerate the e-commerce business. Why can't you build and another example? Why can't you build a street shopping, a virtual street shopping? I remember many years back, I used to go to Brigade Road in Bangalore or MG Road in Bangalore for a shopping, because those are the street known for some special shopping. Why can't you create an e-street shopping? An amazing concept. But you need to make sure that all those street product services available, that is replicated in your virtual platform. And another one, why can't you create an e-mall? It's an amazing concept to create an e-mall. I'm not talking about the mall like a city center. You can't create a name as a city, allowed, unless the city center ownership give you legality. But otherwise, you can create a virtual mall, and whatever is available, whatever the stores available in the mall, you can replicate it in a virtual. Amazing idea. You're bringing the mall experience at the doorstep of the buyers. And e-commerce has a great opportunity. One can focus on it. Another one, why can't you create a cloud kitchen? To create a cloud kitchen, you don't need to be a chef. You need to have the concept. That exactly I mentioned. If you know someone as a chef, bring him, invite him, discuss, have a brainstorm. Instead of wasting a lot of time on the social media, why can't you engage, collaborate, contact with the like-minded people? If someone engineer, talk to him. He said that, what do you think? How can we work together? Talk to a chef. You're saying that I will help you. I will create a platform. So create a cloud kitchen. Cloud kitchen will have an upper hand post-COVID because a lot of restaurants will, fine dining will take its own time to attract the people. I'm not in a position to take my family for a fine dine, but at least for another year. And then home kitchen is another where you can focus on it. Smart delivery, create some smart delivery. There is a need and demand for a smart delivery mechanism. And then why can't you create an online training, virtual training? A lot of the prestigious institutions like an Oxford, Harvard, They are pushing a lot of training, but they don't have a representative in the Middle East. Why can't you reach out to them, create another opportunity for you? And connecting distance schools is another great opportunity. Digital marketing, if you really want to focus something on, focus on digital marketing. Digital marketing will have a huge demand as part of the digitalizations. And I don't want to talk about creating a mask or a medical supply, and everybody is doing it. So being very specific, keeping the post-COVID in mind. So these are the area one can focus on it. And if there is another area, you can please feel free to put forward any questions. And finally, I just wanted to conclude my topic in a note, and a very, very important note that I want to highlight here. One need to remember that successful people are those who can predict the future and prepare for it. Successful people are those who can predict the future and prepare for it. The world will certainly be back on track. The questions, are you prepared yourself to be back on track or left behind? Therefore, it is very important is that we have to prepare yourself. And I believe failing to plan is planning to fail. And I certainly believe that this is the time one need to plan for themselves. If you don't plan yourself, certainly you are planning for fail. Even if you don't do anything, that means somewhat you are actually planning for fail. So therefore, prepare yourself. If there is a challenges, but also there is an opportunities. And we had those hardship in 2008. We came out from 2008. We will certainly come out from this 2020. But most importantly is that we have to prepare ourselves for a 2020. Yeah. With this, I conclude my subject. I try to wrap it up as much as possible. I'll take over to you, Mr. Mansoor, and the moderator for a further session.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Bashir.
much, Mr. Bashir. And it's wonderfully explained and briefed, and it was a very motivational talk by Mr. Bashir. And before I go to Mr. Khurshid, I would like to announce one of our special guests is here today, our All India Congress Committee General Secretary Himanshu Vyasji, also a pillar of Indian Overseas Congress. In spite of his busy schedule, I told him this is the region based in Bahrain and GCC, and still he took his time and he came to us. Himanshu ji, thank you very much from all of us, and one sweet words from you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mansoor. It is really encouraging for us.
Mansoor ji and all friends, and special our guest, Mr. Bashir. I am very thankful that you have invited me. And I was hearing Mr. Bashir is really a great, very knowledgeable person. In fact, in future, I request Mr. Mansoor to, we can take him to another forum of our IOC USA also. Because the thing what he was talking about post-COVID and the situation of economy after post-COVID, how it will have its own different route for the development. I think I heard him and I'm very enlightened to hear him. Thank you very much.
I would like to introduce our guest. She's a Bahraini, Sonia Jalali. She herself is an entrepreneur, and her brand. She started the first brand of Bahrain, which took internationally. Also, she's a board member of Bahrain Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Mansoor, all the attendees, Mr. Bashir, for such an interesting discussion, and I totally agree with all the points that you raised during this webinar. It's quite eye-opening and on the spot, and everything that you related to.